There is a region in the far northeastern corner of Turkey that most travelers, even seasoned ones, have never heard of. While the crowds flock to Istanbul's mosques and Cappadocia's balloons and the beaches of the Turkish Riviera, an entirely different Turkey exists quietly in the mountains near the Black Sea, green, misty, alpine, and almost completely overlooked by international tourism. Today, we are taking you somewhere different. We are taking you to the Kackar Mountains. The Kackar Mountains rise along Turkey's northeastern edge, running roughly parallel to the Black Sea coast, forming part of the larger mountain system that separates the coastal lowlands from the high plateaus of the Turkish interior. The highest peaks reach over 12,000 feet, their summits holding snow well into summer, while the valleys below them turn an almost impossible shade of green for months at a time. This is not the dry, sun-bleached Turkey that appears in most travel photographs. This is a landscape shaped by enormous amounts of rainfall, rolling in from the Black Sea, climbing the mountains, and falling as rain and snow across slopes covered in dense forest, wildflower meadows, and fog that drifts through the valleys most mornings, before the sun burns it away. What makes the Kackar region so extraordinary is the way it compresses dramatically different landscapes into a relatively small area. Drive up from the coast, and within a couple of hours you pass through subtropical tea plantations, then dense temperate forest thick with rhododendron and fern, then alpine meadows scattered with wildflowers, and finally bare rock and permanent snowfields near the highest summits. Few mountain ranges anywhere in the world offer this kind of compressed vertical journey through so many distinct ecological zones in such a short distance. At the heart of the region's appeal are the yaylas, the high mountain pastures and plateaus that sit tucked between peaks, often at elevations between 6,000 and 10,000 feet. For centuries, local communities have driven their livestock up to these yaylas each summer, escaping the heat and humidity of the coast in the lower valleys, living in these high pastures for months before returning down the mountain as autumn approaches. This seasonal migration, still practiced today by some local families, has shaped the entire character of the landscape and the architecture found within it. The traditional buildings of the yaylas are themselves one of the most distinctive features of the region. Built from rough-hewn timber, often raised on stone foundations to handle the heavy snow and seasonal flooding, these wooden structures have been refined over generations to handle a climate that swings between intense summer rain and brutal winter snow. Many of these traditional houses, once used purely for seasonal herding families, have in recent decades been converted into guest houses and small lodges for visitors, giving travelers the chance to sleep in genuinely traditional wooden mountain houses, surrounded by meadows and peaks, often with a river or stream running audibly nearby. One of the most visited and most representative of these high valleys is the Ayder Plateau, sitting at roughly 4,000 feet, nestled between steep, forested mountainsides with a river running directly through the heart of the settlement. Wooden guest houses line the slopes above the water, many of them family-run, offering simple rooms with balconies that look directly out over the valley and the forested peaks rising on either side. The plateau is famous locally for its natural hot springs, fed by mineral-rich water that emerges from deep within the mountain, drawing visitors who come specifically to soak in pools built around the source, surrounded by mist and the sound of the river below. From Ayder, hiking trails climb steadily upward through forest and then open meadow, eventually reaching higher yaylas with names that mean little to outsiders but carry deep significance to local communities who have used these paths for generations. The trails pass waterfalls fed by snowmelt, cross wooden footbridges over fast-moving streams, and eventually open onto views of the high Kackar peaks themselves, their rocky summits often wrapped in cloud even on otherwise clear days. For more serious trekkers, multi-day routes connect several of these high plateaus, allowing travelers to walk for several days through a continuous chain of meadows and mountain passes, staying each night in a different traditional lodge or guest house. The rivers of the Kackar region are a defining feature of the landscape in their own right. Fed by snowmelt and the region's exceptionally heavy rainfall, they run fast and cold even in the height of summer, carving narrow gorges through the forest and tumbling over countless small waterfalls as they descend toward the Black Sea. Several of these rivers have become destinations for whitewater rafting and kayaking, drawing a small but growing number of adventure travelers who come specifically for the rapids. In addition to the hikers and nature travelers drawn by the scenery alone, the best time to visit the Kackar Mountains is generally considered to be between June and September, when the high plateaus are accessible. Snow has retreated from the lower trails, and the wildflower meadows are at their most colorful. Even in midsummer, evenings at altitude can turn surprisingly cold, and rain remains a near constant possibility, given the region's position facing the Black Sea. Travelers, who come prepared for shifting weather, rather than expecting the dry heat of southern Turkey, tend to have the best experience. Outside of this window, many of the higher yaylas become difficult or impossible to reach, as snow returns to the upper valleys, and mountain passes close for the winter. What ultimately makes the Kackar Mountains so compelling is not any single landmark or photograph opportunity, but the cumulative experience of the place itself. The sound of a river running beneath a wooden guesthouse balcony at night, the smell of wood smoke and damp forest in the morning fog, the sight of cattle grazing in a high meadow, with snow-streaked peaks rising directly behind them, and the quiet satisfaction of having found a landscape this beautiful that so few outside travelers ever think to visit. It is a reminder that even in a country as thoroughly mapped by tourism as Turkey, entire regions of extraordinary natural beauty remain waiting, quietly, for the traveler curious enough to look beyond the familiar names.